Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. Hope you're all very well this evening. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Kellahella, great to see you. We have Jared, great to see you. We have Freckled Bunny, hope you're well. We have Chris. Ava, great to see you. Enzo the God, great to have you on, hope you're well. We have Chatty Rat, great to see you. We also have Raven1983 Witch, great to see you too. Colin, great to have you on. Norflinger, great to see you too. John O'Sullivan, great to have you on once again, John. Killer, thanks for moderating. Great to see you. We have Tiny Demolition Lover. Great to have you on too. Beanamac, great to see you. Von Nakarizer, great to see you. Casper, great to see you too. Alistair, hope you're well. We also have Young Ralph, great to see you once again. Mad Monk, great to see you too. Mega Harry Bum, great to have you on. Kevin Marsh, great to see you too. Number 3 is here. We also have Asperger's Europe, great to see you. Eddie Cthulhu, great to see you. We also have who else have we got? Stu, great to have you on. Magic, great to see you. Nico, great to have you on, hope you're well. Freddie, the Lefty Boater, Mark, CGM, the Conservator, so many more, and Mr. Greg as well. Hope you're all very well tonight. Hope you had a good weekend. So, I love this story. Brexiteer, hardline Brexiteer, is suing the UK government for breaching his human rights, and he's taking it all the way to Strasbourg. These Brexiteers have no shame. It says here, Owen Patterson taking UK to Human Rights Court after lobbying scandal. Owen Patterson, the former MP at the centre of the lobbying scandal that engulfed Boris Johnson's government, is taking the UK to this European Court of Human Rights to challenge, this is somebody who advocated for getting rid of it, but anyway, to challenge the finding that he repeatedly broke the rules on paid advocacy. Patterson, a leading Brexiteer who also once argued the UK should break free from the European Court of Human Rights, or European Convention on Human Rights, filed his case on the grounds that his right to respect for private life was infringed under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. His case has been brought against the UK government after the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards found Patterson had breached the MP's code of conduct for misusing resources, engaging in paid lobbying, and failing to disclose interests. Evidence of Patterson's lobbying was originally uncovered by The Guardian. Randox, a healthcare company, paid the former Northern Ireland Secretary £100,000 a year to be its consultant. He was found to have repeatedly lobbied ministers on behalf of Randox and another firm that paid him in contravention of the rules against MPs engaging in paid lobbying. This is how politics works, okay? An MP, sometimes a minister, is paid by a company to lobby on their behalf. You pay him £100,000 a year, and what he does is he steers the government into delivering contracts to companies like Randox or other companies like that. This is how it works. This is the corruption. You pay an MP, you buy an MP, and then you get a return on your investment. Goes on to say the whole time, the idea that you have a Brexiteer going to the European Court of Human Rights. Anyway, a spokesperson for the Council of Europe said applications communicated to the respondent government are those that have been notified to respondent governments but have not yet been declared admissible or disposed of. The court may request factual information or observations or inform the government that their observations are not required since the application concerns well-established case law. The applicant, in this case, referred to simply as OP, Owen Patterson. Number 10 said it was aware of Patterson's case but had no comment. Patterson was also approached for comment. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said, I'm aware of the legal action that relates to the ECHR. Given it is legal action, I cannot comment on this at this stage, but we will respond in the normal way. Once again, you have this, a Brexiteer going to the European Court of Human Rights to sue his own government. a Brexiteer, or Brexiteer as they like to be called. Absolutely insane, and hypocrisy, is off the scale here. Magic, thanks so much for that super chat. Article 8 predictions for public figures are limited, especially when the infringement is in the public interest, i.e. corruption. Yeah, so they may throw out this case because, as you said here, it's in the public interest. This is not somebody who was arrested, for protesting outside the House of Commons or something. This is somebody who is involved in some sort of dodgy behavior. For some reason, the audio is not working tonight. I'm not sure what's going on here. Now it is. Okay, there's a bit of a delay. Anyway, moving on from that. I think the big story this week is the Labour Party and immigration. Let me see if so I'll just show you this quick clip from Keir Starmer talking about immigration dependency. Let me bring up the audio a bit better.
Our common goal must be to help the British economy off its immigration dependency. To start investing more in training workers who are already here. Migration is part of our national story. Always has been, always will be. And the Labour Party will never diminish the contribution it makes to our economy, to public services, to your businesses and our communities. But let me tell you, the days when low pay and cheap labour are part of the British way on growth must end.
Now, to play devil's advocate for a moment, which is going to piss off a lot of people, some will say that he's saying this is not so much about immigration, but about low pay. That he's not talking so much about immigration, he's talking about raising wages for people at the bottom. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. A good business opportunity would be making irony meters because the Tories keep breaking them. Yes, well said, Brad. Thanks for that super chat. The worst thing about this is that about Keir Starmer, what Keir Starmer is saying is we have people who are saying, well, he's chasing for the racist vote or the xenophobic vote, the Brexit, the people who used to vote for the Labour Party and then switched to the Tories in 2019. Starmer wants to win these people back because he believes that it's the only way to get into number 10. So he has to appeal to these people. And he can't say, I'm going to undo Brexit, I'm going to bring back freedom of movement because this is going to piss these people off. This is deeply disappointing because, first of all, do these people still exist in the sense that are these people still of the mind that Brexit was a good idea? Now, others like Phil, for example, has said that Phil from a different bias has said that, the thing here is that when we look at polling, we look at general polling, and the Labour Party has internal polling in particular constituencies, and they probably are asking the question, is immigration a problem for you? And many of these people will reply, yes, it is. So there's no point in Labour's mind, in the mind of the Labour Party, going against these people. But these people represent a fringe of society. But then, on the other hand, you have first past the post. So you have to work within the restrictions of first past the post. It's all really depressing because what a Labour government should be saying is, we should be an open society. Not open borders is a ridiculous straw man presented by the left, but an open society, a welcoming society. We shouldn't be pandering to racists and bigots. We should face these people down. We should call them out. But unfortunately, it seems, at least from my point of view, the Labour Party believes it's necessary to keep the racists and bigots on board. You have to not outdo the Tories or outdo UKIP, but certainly move in that direction. Now, Nigel Farage has come out and uploaded a video. I'm not going to show it to you because I'm not going to inflict Nigel Farage upon you. I've done it enough this time. I've not done it enough this year. But Farage basically was coming out and saying, well, Starmer, the Labour Party, is now to the right of the Conservative Party. And you don't want people like Nigel Farage cheering you on an issue like immigration. That's not a good thing at all. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. Owen Patterson going to the ECHR is about as moronic as that time Tommy Robinson tried to seek political asylum in the United States of America. Yes. They're like, no, you're not going to give you asylum here, you idiot. It is moronic, but there's a possibility he could win the case. But Majik has pointed out earlier that probably it will be thrown out because it's it's an issue of public interest. It's not some private individual who has been arrested for protesting outside the House of Commons, put in handcuffs and thrown in the back of a van, and denied their rights. This is somebody who is allegedly involved in some sort of corruption. It's like a mafia boss or someone going to the European Court of Human Rights saying, look, I was trying to, sell some drugs and organize drugs coming into the country, and I was arrested by the police and I was thrown in prison. They've breached my human rights. Doesn't really work like that. Labour is now Tory light. Anyway, this is concerning. I had this one open already. It says here, Labour's briefing on how it would impose new conditions on firms needing foreign workers. Look, I've been hearing a number of different comments about this, and the argument seems to come down to this: businesses need workers, and politicians want businesses to choose British workers first. And businesses are not choosing British workers first, and they don't understand why. There's a number of reasons why you would choose a foreign worker over a British worker. If somebody moves to the UK, now this can be a good thing or a bad thing, but if workers are coming to the UK, they're going to stay put. They're not going to move around. They're not going to up and leave, when times get tough, or when the job becomes too difficult, or some of them will, but generally, if you have workers who come in from abroad specifically to do the job there, then in a sense they're a captive audience. They're a it's not like slavery, but you're going to have workers who are going to go, okay, I'm going to come to Britain for a year. I'm going to do this job, and that's it. Well, if you had a British worker, and you can apply this to any country, and it's not Britain alone. It's not Britain specific. If you have workers from the local community, if they find something better, they're going to leave. But if you have workers who come in from abroad, it's unlikely they're going to find something better and leave, because their goal is to do that specific job. And, moving house or changing job for somebody who has just come into the country is much more stressful, it's much more difficult than somebody who already lives in the country. And, this can be a good thing or a bad thing that I'm about to say. I don't know, depending on how people view it. But many workers from abroad will view it as, look, I don't want to create problems in the workplace. I'm just going to put my head down and work. While many local workers would say, no, I'm going to create problems. Now, I'm not happy with the work conditions. I'm not happy with the pay. I'm going to create problems in a sense. For the employer, that's a bad thing. Now, for society, it's a good thing, because you want people to go on strike. You want people to demand better pay and conditions. But from a business point of view, who are you going to employ? The foreign worker who's going to keep their head down and be quiet? Or are you going to employ the local worker who might want to form a union or want to go on strike or something like that, or demand more. Now, of course, we on the left should be on the side of the worker who wants to demand more. But the reality is that many businesses would prefer somebody who's just going to keep their head down. It's not I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying this is how businesses think. They don't want trouble. They want people to do their job and at the end of the contract leave. And with local workers, it doesn't matter if it's in Britain, if it's in France, in Germany, in Italy, the Netherlands, wherever. Local workers would prefer, more flexibility. They may be demanding more better conditions, things like that. There are many different factors that I think many commentators and politicians don't seem to understand. Gareth, thanks. Excuse me, Gareth. Thanks for that super chat. The next Godfather film, A Day Out in Strasbourg. What's that? Oh my goodness, Our Man in Strasbourg. But I'd love to hear your opinions on this, guys, because you guys make the stream. I have my ideas and I want to hear yours because it's informing for me as well. Freckle Pony, the racist, bigots and xenophobes can also vote Tory, UKIP, Reform UK and BNP. Remainers in the main will stick with Labour, and Starmer knows that. And yes, this is the point I've been making for so long. People who want to get back into the EU, they're not going to go vote for the Tories. They're not going to vote for BNP or UKIP or Reform or whatever. They're going to vote for the Labour Party. Or Lib Dems if there's the chance, or the Greens if there's a chance. But most people on the left are going to vote. Some cases they may be holding their nose. So in some cases they may be voting tactically. But they're going to vote for the party they believe will get the UK back into the EU. And the only real show in town, apart from Scotland, if you're not in Scotland, is the Labour Party. Conservator, thanks so much for that super chat. UK visa tie foreign workers to a single employer. That's a huge bonus for businesses. They want, okay, and very well for pointing that out, and that's so true. If you have a visa, and this is one of the things that was not the case with freedom of movement, but if you have a visa, you can only work for that company. You can't move around. And that's why I believe the likes of the CBI want more. The CBI are not so pushed about having freedom of movement back, but they would like, in certain industries, they would like more visas. They would like to be able to control the workers, of course, and the visa system. And this is, something that really annoyed me about people on the left. And I'm sorry to say, people like Mick Lynch in the RMT union, the RMT union was campaigning for Brexit, and you end up with a visa system where workers are treated poorly, where workers are not able to get a better job or move around. They're restricted, as Conservatives correctly said, to one employer. No DLC, great to see you on the stream. I see you wrote, I once worked for a company that took on school leavers as interns for work experience training. Half of them never turned up because they couldn't read a roadmap or phone the office for directions. I've heard a lot of these stories where the people in the local community, for example, I'm not going to comment on Britain because I don't know everything that's happening there. But for example, stories I've heard here in Italy about young people who, and I'm not dumping on young people here, but it's just anecdotal stories I've heard where, many of the young people would be of the idea, well, I don't like the job, I'll just go back and live with my parents. If the worst comes to the worst, I'll just go back and stay at home and, get by that way. But if you're a foreign worker, you can't do that. You have to, put your head down and continue working. Now, that can be viewed as a positive thing. That can be viewed in a negative way as well. Wrong way around, Max. They prefer Brexiteers. they're Brexiteers, but they prefer to be called Brexiteers. I actually call them Brexiteers in an ironic way because they think themselves as, musketeers or something. But they're, have you seen Mark Francois? Remember he was talking about climbing Big Ben to Bong Brexit Day? Yeah, there isn't, as far as I know, there isn't a stairs in Big Ben, so I don't know whether he's going to climb it from the outside or from the inside. The workers from abroad from the Commonwealth. Tauntaun. Yeah, so there is this hope from Brexit supporters that, some people within the Conservative Party in particular want to shift away from EU workers to workers from the Commonwealth. But again, you have this problem with visas. Care homes need staff. In order to get the staff in, they have to pay huge amounts of money, and the visas last a limited amount of time. There is, the Tories will say about high paying jobs, but it's really a race to the bottom. They want to, and I've said this before in videos where, what they want to do is they want to create a society where most of the workers are contract workers. Doesn't matter if they're British, doesn't matter if they're foreign, they're working for agencies so that they can be laid off at any time and replaced by any other worker without any problems for the employer. Or you have a problem with your boss, you're sacked today, and you're replaced by somebody who doesn't have a problem with their boss. Thanks for that super chat thing, Tauntaun. We have Richard Turner. Thanks so much, Richard. What incentive would any EU citizen have to go and work in the UK? Fully stocked shelves, fresh food, freedom of movement, and single currency. Zero incentive. There is, for example, and this is going off on a tangent here, and this is going off topic completely, but the NHS is so desperate for workers that they're willing to pay thousands a month for certain staff. And what happens here is because they can't get the workers, they have to bring people in on contracts, and they're paying them huge amounts of money, much more than many junior doctors and nurses are earning. And this is putting an extra strain on the NHS because they've been restricted with how many workers they can get in because of Brexit and because of the end following COVID. And their budgets are limited. The budgets are not rising. The government want to cut back on more money for the public service. And with the limited budgets, they're having to pay regular workers more money because of pay agreements. And secondly, they need to hire people from agencies and pay them a lot of money. And some of the workers are coming in from maybe parts of Europe where they know that they're going to earn a significant amount of money but in a very limited amount of time. It's not about people moving to the UK to start a life. It's about moving to the UK to make a quick few quid. They must turn to voting Green Party in Wales and England. The earth is burning. This is more important now. It's this is the most important issue, and it's not been covered enough. And you look at Sky News, and I've been looking at reports on Sky News when it comes to climate change, and there's so much to cover, but nobody's watching it. You put up something about Love Island, and you get wall-to-wall coverage. The football is getting wall-to-wall coverage, but when we talk about the environment, you don't get anyone. Maybe it's because people want to live within this bubble of, well, I can't have any impact. My impact is zero. There's nothing I can do about it, so I just put my head in the sand. And politicians know that. Thanks, Richard. So just continue with this. Labour's briefing on how it would impose new conditions on firms needing foreign workers. The Labour Party has issued a briefing to journalists giving a little bit more detail on how it would work with businesses to end immigration dependency Now, for the record, here are 3 extracts. So the current immigration system exists entirely in isolation from long-term workforce plans. The result is that employers face delays in getting skilled workers in place. Workers are not getting the skills they need to get on. Stagnant pay and poor conditions are commonplace in sectors in the UK economy, and innovation is held back. Which is true. Yes, that's all true. Labour is speaking to organisations to link the points-based system to training, skills and employment standards to ensure our economy has a plan for the skilled workforce it needs. Now, when they talk about skills, this is extremely demeaning as well, because they will say, well, we need skilled people, we don't need unskilled people. And, care, working in the care sector, is that not skilled? Working in a field all day, meeting a quota that you have to complete, a target, which is, that requires a skill, knowing which fruit to pick, which fruit not to pick, how to pack it, that you're able to maximize the load, because you get paid per basket or paid per kilo. That requires a skill and it's not something you can learn in a week or even in a month. So this idea of unskilled workers is really condescending. We have a super chat from Alec. Thanks so much, Alec. Big Ben's a bell. Is he going to hung it? Is he going to hug it? Big Ben's a bell. He's going to hug it. He's going to bong Big Bell. Big Ben. That's what Mark Francois was saying. Thanks for that, Alex. We have a super chat from SFFSM is the dog. Thanks so much for that. First past the post forces parties to target the winnable seats. Yes, it's all about focusing on these marginal seats. And unfortunately, that's what helps win the elections. It's these marginals. And, it seems the Labour Party is probably polling the constituents there, trying to find out what makes them tick, what's going to convince them to vote for the Labour Party, and immigration is probably one of these. It's sad that this type of tail wagging the dog is going on, where you have a small fringe basically dictating how the country operates. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. We wouldn't be immigration dependent if we had a nation invested in the indigenous population, for fuck's sake. When UK wants to turn an ISIS leader into a corpse, money is no object. When the UK wants to train nurses, we can't afford it, yes. And it's the same old story, and well said. And thanks so much for that super chat. It's the same old story. When it's about spending money to help people, it's a cost. When it's about destroying stuff, it's about, money is no object. And notice the language as well, and I've said this before. Notice the language when they're talking about benefits. We want to increase benefits. Well, that's taxpayer money. That's, public money. But when it's about, some pet project of the Conservatives, like Brexit, that's investing. Okay, so if it's delivering. So we have to deliver this money. We have to invest this money. So it's investment when it's for things that they like, but when it's to help ordinary people, well, then that's a cost, and it's, taxpayer money. Alexis, thanks so much for that super chat. All jobs require skills. I don't learn the term skills, semi-skilled, unskilled, but I have a better suggestion. Yeah, this idea, yes, unskilled. It's just this. Really, it's a condescending term to try and keep people down. Oh, well, you're unskilled, well, you're not needed, or you're unskilled, well, you don't need to be paid more. This person is highly skilled, so what is the definition? They don't actually explain the definition of what skilled is, and this idea I think it was David Davis saying, yeah, if we bring in skilled people, that'll drive up wages. But if we bring in unskilled people, that'll drive down wages. It's not about the skill or not. If you're bringing people in, it either drives up wages or down wages. Which is it? Anyway, it goes on here. Thanks for that, Super Chat. It goes on to say, Labour will speak to organisations to link a points-based system to training skills and employment standards to ensure our economy has a plan for the skilled workforce it needs. Once again, this thing about skills. It's not a problem per se, but it is this idea that, well, we just want people who have high skills. We don't want so-called low skills. But this point-based system is a problem because what it does is it excludes people who don't reach a particular threshold, but those people are still needed in the economy. So if you say, we only want people who reach, 500 points, but, somebody who only reaches 400 points could actually be required in the economy. And it takes time for these things to adjust. And it takes political pressure because it's the politicians who will decide, what the points-based system is based on. There will be perhaps some feedback and input from the business sector, but there'll always be pushback from politicians because businesses will want to bring in people without any restrictions. But the politicians want to show that they are controlling the borders. And there's always this back and forth. As part of this process, the party will consider international comparators where the wider labour market and immigration are much better linked, like in Australia. But you can't compare yourself with Australia. Australia is an island in the Pacific. You can't compare yourself with Australia because the economy is completely different. The UK used to have heavy industry, massive services sector. Australia isn't like that. Anyway, want to ensure why Australia? Why not Canada or something like that? No, I don't understand. Even Canada would not be a good example. We want to ensure that where there are shortages that need to be filled through international recruitment, there is training or there is active workforce measures to address the cause here at home. Our new skills body, Skills England, will take on a role in assessing and recommending action to address skill gaps. After a certain amount of time, sectors cannot expect support from with migration without taking action on skills. So I think the idea here is that what you do is you have to spend money on training. You have to train up the local workforce. And if you still can't get them, then perhaps you can bring people in from abroad. But what if you're a startup? You can't wait to train people up. You need people, from the get-go. Like if you say, okay, I have this business idea, I want to start, I want to start a business, making, microphones. Okay, just looking around me, microphones. I want to start a new business making wireless microphones. I can't train people up. First of all, I don't have the resources to do that. So I'll have to bring people in from abroad if I can't find them in the local area. There has to be some, as I said, the politicians think in a different way than businesses think, which sometimes is a good thing, but not always. On how the skill training might be improved to drive a revolution in learning and skills and achieve sustainable economic growth across the country, Labour will give businesses the flexibility they need to train their workforce and deliver growth. By turning the Tories' failed apprenticeships levy into a growth and skills levy, there's all these slogans, okay. The party will go further and devolve adult education skills spending to combined authorities and establish a new expert body, Skills England, to oversee the national skills effort. Will there be like a Skills Scotland and Skills Wales? Northern Ireland, probably not. on the value of migrant workers, our economy and our communities have long benefited from people coming here from all over the world. From building our biggest businesses to sustaining our public services and leading our scientific research and innovation to caring for our loved ones. That has made our country, that has made us the country we are today. People choosing to come to the UK will continue to be important for our economy, and that is exactly why the system needs to be properly managed in the interests of workers and businesses. It's a bit light here on what they mean by that, just that these workers are valued. I guess he's not saying, or they're not saying here, we don't want these people. Goes on to say the final paragraph shows that Labour cannot fairly be accused of belittling the contribution made by migrant workers. Jeremy Corbyn implied this in a tweet this morning, and the Green Party made the same claim in its response to Starmer's speech, accusing the Labour leader of trying to outflank the Tories on anti-migrant rhetoric. So I don't know if this clarifies what was already said in Starmer's speech, that yes, migrants are important. It doesn't say that, they'll continue to be welcomed. It just says, they're important. And the requirements of workers and businesses need to be managed. So it just says that they have been a benefit. You're a benefit, but we're not going to welcome you because that's going to piss off some voters. Okay. Or maybe I'm being overly cynical here. I don't know. I'm quite cynical. I know that, and that can be a problem. We have a super chat from Magic once again. Thanks so much, Magic. Drive a van, unskilled. Driving is a skill, which is why it's stupid. Yes, you can't put anyone in a van and expect them to drive it. And even if you can drive the van, operating the van is different than just driving it. And then you work your way up as well. Like you apply that to, I was going to say this in a video last night about when it came to, for example, a forklift driver. So imagine you have a warehouse and you're looking for a forklift driver, and you put out a request in the local newspaper, or you call the local job centre and say, look, is there anyone with who's a qualified forklift driver? And you get nothing back. And you get a CV from abroad saying, yeah, look, I was on your website and I saw that you need a forklift driver. I'm skilled. If there are decent hours and there's a decent contract, I'll come over from Bulgaria and I'll work in your warehouse as a forklift driver. What are you going to do? Are you going to say, well, I'm going to wait for a British person to be trained up, or I'm going to hire this person who has the skill already? This is something people don't seem to understand. There are almost zero unskilled jobs in the UK. Work as a cashier, then math skill. Exactly. This idea, I think it's about convincing certain people that if it's quote unquote unskilled, it's not necessary. And anyone can do it. So why are we bringing these people in from abroad? You hear this sort of language when it's about picking fruit. Well, anyone could do that. But as I said, if you want to do it right and if you want to make money doing it, you need to be skilled. You need to know which fruit to pick, how to pack it. You need to be quick. You need to be really fast in doing this, because the faster you are, the more boxes you can fill, the more baskets you can fill. And you're paid by basket. So if you're not really good at it, and you spend the whole day just filling one basket, and you're somebody else who's really good at it, is able to fill 10 baskets, they're going to get paid 10 times as much as you are. And if this is your first time doing the job, you're not going to last at it too long. If you're looking around, how come these people are getting 10 baskets and I'm only getting one? And when I deliver to the boss is saying this is full of crap. These fruit shouldn't have been included. Why did you put these fruit in the basket? They're not ripe, or they're not ready, or whatever. This is all a skill. We tend to, not we here on the stream, of course, but politicians and people in the media tend to go, oh, well, that's not skilled. It's, anyone could pick fruit. Send people like Michael Gove or Boris Johnson or Jacob Rees-Mogg out into a field and get them to work for a week picking fruit and see how long they last. They wouldn't last a week. They wouldn't last a day. Probably wouldn't last even 2 hours. But they will say that it's unskilled. And I'm not talking about the physical aspect of it, which is, of course, an important point. For example, I've seen workers here in Italy during the summer working, building houses under 37-degree heat, for almost 40-degree heat, day in, day out. Like, is that not a skill? Like, yes, physical, but working under those conditions, I wouldn't be able to do it. And it's not just about the physical aspect; it's about also maintaining. You have to follow the instructions, make sure that they're followed to the letter. Because if you make a mistake, you're in serious trouble, and someone's house could collapse on them, and apply that to large apartment blocks or whatever. It's all skilled. There's no such thing as unskilled. You know what's unskilled? YouTuber. You know what's unskilled? Commentator on LBC or talk radio. That's unskilled, okay? Any gob on a stick can do that job. So it's that's if you want to hear about unskilled work, that's what's unskilled. Talking your arse off, okay? Talking crap all day, that's unskilled. Tonton, thanks so much for that super chat. If they come from former British colonies, they cannot be called foreigners. People colonized by France don't go to the UK. Yes, very, very good point. But they would be regarded as foreigners or people. I don't want these people here. And this is what really, drove the Brexit vote. Oh, well, I don't like going down to my local supermarket and hearing foreign voices. Of course, these people didn't understand if the foreign voice was from Pakistan or from Spain. Most of these people it's foreign. I don't like it. Get these people out. This is what they voted for. And there were, if you've heard how many calls into the likes of James O'Brien or others who are saying, oh, I don't like, I don't like going into I don't like all these people in my community. They don't fit in, or I don't like hearing these voices on the bus or in the supermarket. Why can't we go back to the way things were before? And of course, you have the likes of Farage who will feed this rhetoric. Thanks for that super chat, Tonton. We also have one from Gareth. Once again, thanks so much, Gareth. Skills, what about experience, qualifications? Better yet, why don't we hire the skilled foreigners to train the unskilled natives? Yes, no, oh, well, that's going to upset a lot of racists. Okay, welcome to your first training session. Here is somebody from another country who's going to teach you how to do the job. How many racists and bigots would sit through that seminar? Not too many, I don't think. Question, Max, do you have you seen the petition demanding a Brexit public inquiry? I think I saw something about that. I haven't seen the petition itself, but I heard that there was a petition, and there needs to be a public inquiry into Brexit. At this stage, how can somebody say no? Even the most, foaming at the mouth Brexiteer would have to say, yes, there has to be a public inquiry because they didn't get the Brexit that they wanted. They will say that, oh, this is not the Brexit that I wanted. We're not controlling our borders. Max, are you calling yourself an unskilled worker? Yes, I am, okay? This is unskilled, okay? There's no skill involved here. You just have to, blah, blah, blah. And, there are much more important jobs in the world than this. Somebody looking after the elderly. This is an important job. And I'm the first to say it, okay? This is not an important job. An important job is somebody who looks after people in a care home. Doctors and nurses. They for me, are the most important job. Teachers are the most important jobs. They prepare the next generation. That's why I'm so adamant about having them funded correctly. giving them the proper wages, investing in schools and universities, making sure that the next generation are better prepared than the last generation. And the healthcare. And I wasn't actually going to talk about this because I just thought of it now. Rishi Sunak, what is he paying? £250 to jump the queue? And people were saying, well, if he can afford it, why can't he do it? He's the frigging Prime Minister. Like, he's paying money to avoid a problem that his government has created. Just think about that for a moment. It's not about whether he can afford it or whether rich people should go privately. He is ultimately responsible because he's the freaking Prime Minister. He's not just some guy. I don't agree with private healthcare. I understand it exists and many people take advantage of it because it exists. And I'm not begrudging somebody who's, they themselves are very ill, their child is ill, a loved one is in a serious condition, and they see, look, if I pay a bit extra, I'm able to jump the queue. I'm not begrudging anyone from doing that. I'd probably do it myself. Okay, let's be honest about that. If you have the means and you're in a desperate situation, then you're going to say, I'll move heaven and earth to make sure my loved one is getting the treatment that they need. But this is the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, paying £250 for a medical appointment by avoiding the NHS that he is ultimately responsible for. It's like I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy here. It's like, I don't know, if Sir Richard Attenborough in his spare time went chopping down trees or something like that and paid for the privilege. No, it's not a good example. It's not a good analogy, but you are ultimately responsible. Rishi Sunak decides ultimately. He can tell the Chancellor what to do. If he doesn't believe the Chancellor is doing what he should do, he can fire him. He has that ability. He can say, no, we need to invest in the NHS. We shouldn't be in a situation where there's a two-tier healthcare system. And I shouldn't be taking part in that two-tier healthcare system. My God. Tonson, thanks so much. That's super chat once again. To the people who say foreigners don't fit in, should be answered, you should not have colonized them. You are responsible for them being here. Yes. Many countries in Europe, including Britain and France, went around the world and colonized many communities and countries. And, they have a responsibility to look after those people today. If you don't want to look after them, then you shouldn't have colonized them in the first place. And, at least some countries are saying, well, the colonization was a bad thing. It was a mistake. We shouldn't have done it. It was a violence on the communities, the people of those places. It was abhorrent. We enslaved people. We took their land. We took their resources. We destroyed their communities. And we're sorry for that. Other countries are saying, no, well, the empire was a wonderful thing. Don't run it down. There was the good sides as well, remember. And don't talk about, sugar plantations or people who sit in the House of Commons today who have benefited from that. And who have names like, James Bond villains. Yes, you colonize them, then they're going to come to live in your country. That's, you should be welcoming them. That's woke talk, Max. Woke hour. Welcome to the woke. It goes on to say here, Starmer accused by SNP of trying to out-Tory the Tories with speech saying firms should end immigration dependency. So the SNP have a number, he's been attacked on a number of fronts here. It says here, Kirsten Oswald from the SNP said it was depressing to watch the Labour leader try to out-Tory the Tories again on Brexit and migration, and essentially tell the CBI that they were wrong. The CBI has raised legitimate and very real concerns over Brexit and its impact on migration, immigration, and our workforce. Instead of heeding the warnings, both the Tory and Labour leaders have chosen to double down on the delusion of Brexit when it's obvious it isn't working. With both Labour and Tories committed to the damage of Brexit, the only route to escape the long-term harm and rejoin the largest single market in the world, a market 7 times greater than the UK, is for Scotland to become an independent country. And tomorrow, I won't be able to follow it live, but tomorrow there is the results of the independence, the ruling on whether the Scottish government can hold a second independence vote from the Supreme Court. So that should be interesting. More like David Attenborough paying to hunt endangered animals. Great stream, Max. Thanks so much, Freddie. Yes, it's a bit like, that's a better analogy. David Attenborough paying to hunt endangered animals, and then doing videos about it, how wonderful they are. And of course, Sir David would never do something like that. He's a hero of mine, and a hero of many, I think. But the SNP are correct here that you need to. Brexit is damaging, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be explained to people. So guys, we're about halfway through the stream. Before we go to our funny video, of course, we have our raffle for another calendar, another Saron calendar. So let me bring up the... where is my... Just a moment. I'll bring up the... Oh, that's very big. Let me make it a bit smaller. The production values of GB News, of course. So we have Sauron's hat. Let me get the calendar this time, and we have, let's see who is the winner, and I have to send the winners their calendar, so I'm going to probably send them all together. So we have some names in the hat. Of course, the donations of Buy Me a Coffee will eventually go to DEFR, of course. And let me pick out who is the winner this week. Let me show you here. This is Sauron's hat. Sauron is not using his hat at the moment, so that's okay. And the winner is Rudy. Congratulations, Rudy. So I'll contact Rudy by email, and I'll ask Rudy if he wants a digital or a physical copy of the Sauron Venti. Make the Empire Great Again edition calendar for next year. Congratulations, Rudy, I think. Okay, let's get rid of this ugly mug. Okay, we have a super chat from, and then we'll jump to the funny video. We have a super chat from Gareth once again. For fuck's sake, nobody tell up the Farage. That's amazing, up the Farage. I'll have to tell Mrs. Max about that. She found it extremely funny when Nigel Farage was recorded saying up the Ra, up the Farage. That the black and tans can't be found on a dinghy, in the back of a refrigerated truck, or in the foreign-born population. Yeah, what's that? Well, you got me really on the up the Farage. No, they can't be found in a dinghy, and they can't be found in a refrigerated truck. People like Farage have really weaponized this issue, and unfortunately, it seems Farage is willing to give it another go. He's complaining that Brexit was not delivered. He's complaining that Brexit was not done. And there's a growing chorus for him to throw his hat back into the ring again. Oh, God. Another bout of Farageism once again. Thanks so much, Gareth. Well done, Rudy. Yes. So before we let's have our moment, comedy moment, and we'll be back with some serious stuff again in just a jiffy.
You've already implied that Rishi Sunak might be a bit of a villain.
Yeah, he's done it.
What is there other villains? And is Carrie is she the love interest, or is there another woman?
She's there, she cleans up, brings tea and stuff like that. Good for her. Pot down, get some milk, Carrie, and off she goes and does it, because she's hungry for power and cups of tea for me. There are other villains in it. Working title, Jeremy Hunt. Another working title for another one of the villains is everyone else on the front bench, who's just a backstabbing little langer who just doesn't care. They're all in it just for the power. Well, I'm not. I'm in it for loyalty, and also my books are out there, and I'm going to be a lord.
No! As a lord. I don't think she will. That would be not a good thing. Okay, so Manston Migration Processing Centre now empty after earlier overcrowding. So I don't know if this is good news or bad news. Well, good news for people who are in it, but where have these people gone, and what sort of conditions have they been moved on to? So it says here, Manston was at the centre of controversy earlier this month, as there were more people than double the number of migrants that it was meant to hold, with disease and a lack of bedding causing issues. Lack of beds causing issues. The Home Office site in Kent, where thousands of migrants were, who have arrived in small boats, have been taken since it opened in February. Currently has 0 people in it. In recent weeks, Manston, a former military base, has been at the centre of a controversy, as it was designed to hold up to 1,600 people for no more than 24 hours. But earlier this month, there were about 4,000 people in the centre, some who had been for much longer than they should have been. And yes, under the rules, people should not have been held for more than 24 hours, and they were being held for much more than 24 hours, so the government had to put them up in alternative accommodation. This included hotels, which, of course, the far right and people who pretend not to be far right were complaining about. And there were MPs in the House of Commons naming and shaming the hotels. So the government were not able to process the people. The government decided we're going to put these people into hotels so we're not caught breaking the law. And the Tory government, who did this, their MPs were complaining about it and naming and shaming the hotels. It goes on to say, migrants said that they were sleeping on cardboard, while unrest among migrants was spreading due to the conditions. Concerns over infectious diseases were raised, with reports of diphtheria, and earlier this month, health authorities said that they were vaccinating migrants at Manston against that disease. The Home Office said that there were no migrants currently at Manston, as civil servants have been working tirelessly to find other accommodation for them. So, of course, they're being moved into temporary accommodation, which would include hotels. And we've seen videos from GB News complaining about the hotels. Oh, don't put them in these wonderful hotels, these luxury hotels. Even one MP was complaining about it. Bus to Victoria Station stranded there again. This has happened, of course, as well, that a number of people have been sent to Victoria Station and just left there. And what happened was charities pick up the slack. Of course, Hugh, one person died, of course, in this. There's still no information about how they died. There was a mention that it wasn't related to illness, an illness in the camp, that they actually were ill before they arrived. But we don't know all the details yet. Magic, thanks so much for that super chat. Notice it doesn't mention the dead ex-resident. Yes. So I don't know whether this story is going to continue. Thanks so much, Magic. Of course, there is no mention of that because, well, it's damaging for the government, and we've heard very little from the government about this. Tory-owned hotels. Well, you're even more cynical than me, Jackie. But probably, you know, who wins the contracts for these hotels? Maybe Tory-owned ones. I don't know, but the hotels do not provide hotel services. They're in fact prisons. Yes, because they have moved out the staff from these hotels, and the people staying in them can't leave. So you're right. It's basically, it's, you know, when they say it's a 5-star hotel, yes, but a 5-star hotel has services. None of these services exist at the moment because the staff don't exist there. Okay, moving on. Oh no, I've already covered that. I just want to show you this clip. It's my good friend, the House of Commons hooligan, Jonathan Gullis, being put back into his box by Labour Shadow Treasury Minister.
Yes, sure, with pleasure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm grateful to the Shadow Minister giving way. Can I ask the Shadow Minister, in Labour's plans, are there any plans for any tax cuts? And if there are, where are they?
I welcome the honourable member's intervention, and if he listens carefully to my speech and pays careful attention, he will hear all our economic plans laid out in the speech, so please pay attention.
There's him told, or telt, as they say in Scotland. Jackie says £150 a day with 7 in a room. Somebody's making money out of this. So I think you're probably correct. Or I don't know if it was you, Jackie, who said it, that, you know, maybe they're Tory hotels run by Tories. So they go, okay, yeah, I want to make some money out of this. Full capacity. So that's probably what's going on. Gullis constantly embarrasses himself. Yeah, he's a bit of a joke. And he was allowed to teach children before entering the Commons. Yes, this guy used to be a teacher. I don't know if he was in primary or secondary school, but yes, this guy used to teach children. Can you imagine what he was like? You know, he probably walked around with a piece of wood in his hand, ready to slap people across the back of the head if they didn't answer him correctly. You know, who's our greatest hero? Superman? No, Winston Churchill. Or worse. Enoch Powell. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. On hotels, would you like to see the numbers, Max? Yes, I definitely would like to see the numbers. If you want to, you don't need to send a super chat. You can post them in the chat if you got some of the numbers. Local Holiday Inn has them. Website: Holiday Inn Bristol hotel remains closed for guest stays. See, the problem is, if you're not able to process people, then they have to go somewhere, and hotels are the logical step. Where else can you put people? You can't put them into other places that are not designed to hold them. And also, a hotel is not the best place either, because many of these asylum seekers are probably waiting to be analyzed for maybe psychological conditions. You know, are they able to access this sort of support? You know, people who have come from traumatic experiences, they need professional help. Is that available for them? Are they receiving it in these hotels? So there are many questions. It's not just a matter of holding people. As was pointed out before, it's basically like being in a prison. It shouldn't be like a prison. Some people have come out of prisons in their own country to get to the UK so they can have some freedom, and they find themselves being put back into a prison again. There were only vacant rooms because of COVID. Does the government commandeer these hotels, or do they volunteer? I don't think the government can commandeer them. They can't use this as a crisis. They could commandeer them, I think, during the pandemic. Although they didn't commandeer them during the pandemic, they were paying hotels, or hotels were being well paid to hold people who were infected with COVID. But it seems that they're not commandeering there. They're putting it out to tender, or maybe calling. There's a WhatsApp group of Tory supporters who can get their name on the list of hotels that will be used. Who named and shamed the hotels? They need naming and shaming, says Bill. I think it was a number of Tory MPs who did it. I don't remember who it was, so I can't say. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are the typical ones, the red-faced gammons that we normally see in the House of Commons. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a few of them. Limited offer, special offer, not to tender. There was another story I wanted to bring up here. So what's happening with the economy at the moment? This story from Channel 4 News I wanted to show you. Don't worry, I won't show it all.
Well, the international economic think tank, the OECD, has warned that the UK will have the lowest growth among the big group of 7 industrial countries next year. Only Russia, facing sanctions from the West over its war in Ukraine, will fare worse. Our economics reporter Neil MacDonald is here. Neil, why is the UK doing so badly compared to others?
Well, the OECD says the whole world is facing the largest energy crisis in 50 years. Russia has, of course, disrupted gas supplies, and the price of that gas has surged. But how exposed you are to that determines how badly your economy is affected. So this is what the OECD thinks is going to happen to economic growth in some of the big economies next year. And you can see how, if we bring on the United Kingdom, there we are, we're doing worst of all.
Worse, yeah.
Of course, no one's doing very well.
Yeah.
Now, France, it produces most of its electricity from nuclear power domestically. The United States, most of the gas it uses is produced domestically. That helps to insulate them from what's happening to the international price of gas. Countries like Germany and the United Kingdom, they depend more on imported gas, and so they are taking the brunt of this energy shock.
So when's it going to get better?
Well, the OECD is saying that we might actually be facing 2 difficult winters rather than just one. And what it's concerned about is gas storage in Europe. So I'll show you what the OECD thinks could happen. We've got gas storage here. The line shows it falls from about 90%, falls down, obviously, as we use it during the winter, and then goes back up from next spring as we fill up the storage capacity again. The line at the bottom, 30% storage. If you go below that, that's where you get the risk of disruption. But the OECD says what happens if there's a much colder winter? There you see storage plummets right into the danger zone. And of course, there's a bigger hole that we then have to try and fill up. And because of that, when you look at the following winter, the situation is very serious.
And briefly, why can't they just fill up the storage facilities?
Well, European countries have done a quite good job of that over the last summer, but a lot of that gas actually came from Russia. And of course, Russia has now dramatically cut back the amount it is supplying, and that doesn't look like it's going to change at any time soon. Europe can go onto international markets and buy some gas, but then, of course, it's competing with other countries. So it's likely to not be able to get hold of as much gas as it wants and pay more for it. And critically, don't assume that none of this affects us. The UK has direct physical links with the energy market in Europe. So if they are paying more for gas, then probably so are we.
So once again, we're stuck with a situation where we're allowing Russia to dictate. If the war isn't resolved anytime soon, it means that next winter we're going to be going through a similar crisis. And this, of course, points to the fact that we need to move away from fossil fuels. I'm not an advocate for nuclear, but there has to be. If it's something that needs to be considered, it has to be considered. One of my big problems with it is who's going to run it. It's not so much about the technology. The technology is problematic. The waste, how do you deal with the waste? Where are you going to put it? how some of it can be reprocessed. But my biggest concern about it is security, in the sense that you're going to give contracts to who? You know, in the UK, if they're talking about building new plants, who's going to win those contracts? Serco? You know, somebody who donated a massive amount of money to the Conservative Party. We saw it with PPE. So how would it not be applied to energy? So that would be extremely concerning. And you can apply this to other countries around the world as well. If there's a risk of corruption, who wins these contracts? But we need to move away from fossil fuels. We should be moving at breakneck speed away from it. But there's no real political effort to do that. It's all bit by bit. Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll throw a bit of a hoorah about it, but we're not actually going to invest in it. We're not going to make the massive shift. And next year, we're going to be probably in a similar situation, wondering, why didn't we do something last year?
McDonald, thanks very much.
Anthony says Ireland is putting in place an interconnector with France. France, of course, it's you can buy energy from France much cheaper, but I still think that's one thing, that's great. But what if there's a problem in France? You need to be more energy independent. And people are complaining about wind turbines and they're complaining about solar, but what's the alternative? Freezing to death? Warm banks?
Jackie, let's go to Jackie in Leeds.
Well, as we've just been hearing, it's likely that the problems plaguing the British economy will stick around for the next couple of years and therefore past the next general election. Today, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, vowed he'd be a pragmatic PM in dealing with the economy. And in a speech to the Confederation of British Industry, he urged business leaders to wean themselves off cheap labour from overseas. Our business reporter, Amelia Jen, was there.
They go on to PPE face masks, so they actually go over their bridge clips that go over the top of the nose.
The pandemic boom in masks and the tiny strips in them have made this company hundreds of thousands. From razor blades to kettle connectors, the chances are Brandauer's small metal products are somewhere in your home. They've got big plans for expansion, but just can't fill the roles.
The entry-level jobs right up to senior management, there is a shortage of good people to do all of those jobs. We're having to work twice as hard to find the same number of people as we perhaps were looking for 5 or 6 years ago.
But like the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer played down increased immigration to plug the more than million-strong worker shortage, forgetting perhaps that he himself called for freedom of movement in his own leadership campaign. He told business leaders at the Confederation of British Industry he'd take a pragmatic approach to shortages in the short term, but that his focus would be better pay and more skills for British workers.
But our common goal must be to help the British economy off its immigration dependency, to start investing more in training workers who are already here. But let me tell you, the days when low pay and cheap labour are part of the British way on growth must end.
I think they're a little bit deluded in terms of solving the growth problem. I can understand we can upskill our existing workforce, but that takes time. And unfortunately, the opportunity is now, and we have to seize it, which means we do need more immigration as part of the initial solution.
It's a no-brainer. If you need the workers and they're not trained, and it takes months or even years to train them up, then it makes sense to bring people in who are already trained. Like, imagine if you say, okay, I want to, I want to build a house, and there's no one in the area who can build a house. Do you wait until somebody has been trained up to build a house, or you just hire somebody outside the town or outside the area who can build a house? It's nonsensical trying to go down this road of, well, we don't need to bring people in from abroad, we just need to train them up. Once again, this complete disconnect from reality the politicians have.
The levers of growth are few and far between in a recession. The best and cheapest one, says the Confederation of British Industry, is increasing time-limited visas for workers right now.
This is a here and now crisis. We are saying, get migration going. And we're short here of not just data and tech things, we're missing butchers, baggage handlers, hospitality, healthcare. There's jobs at all levels that are not being filled, and that's holding back growth.
This is a different Labour Party, and there's no going back. We're ready for partnership.
This isn't just business, but the business of politics. And Sir Keir was on a mission to claim his was a party that respected profit and private enterprise.
I felt as if he was believable in terms of his desire to work in collaboration with businesses, and that's really good to hear.
Sir Keir Starmer, yes or no?
I think he's heading in the right direction. I think he made the right noises, certainly the right comments around the business partnership side of things.
The test now is whether his common sense, which I found very impressive, is also supported by the rest of his party. And if it is, then I think that's a convincing package.
The next election is one that will almost certainly be fought along economic lines being refashioned here in Birmingham. But that short-term fix business is calling for rejected for now by party leaders who see more immigration as too high a political price for growth.
Once again, you have two parties chasing a very small fringe, and let's call it what it is, far-right vote. People will say that they're left-wing, but they don't like immigrants. This is a far-right ideology. This is a far-right belief. And, it's quite sad and depressing that Labour feel the need to try and win these people over. They may succeed. They may actually convince some of these people to come back to the Labour Party or vote for the Labour Party, because I don't think they're going to vote for Labour because they believe in Keir Starmer. It's that they'll be so upset with the Tories and they'll be like, well, if Labour are willing to control migration, then we'll be happy with that. This is not representative of British people. This is a small fringe, and unfortunately, that small fringe will decide the next election. Growth in poverty and food banks. Young couples are being priced out of being able to support a family. It's practically, if not completely, impossible now for many young people to buy a home. I think after Generation X, it's been pretty much impossible. I've been speaking to so many people. Rents are going up, so people have less money that they can put aside if they do eventually want to buy a house. And of course everything else is going up in price. So whatever savings you can put aside are getting smaller and smaller, and people have run out. People are using their savings to pay the bills. That's the stage things are at. Home ownership is a pipe dream for most young people today. And what you're seeing instead is you're seeing the richer people buying in cash. They have, as Gary Stevenson said when we interviewed him, what's happened is the richest in society, they saw huge amounts of money being transferred from the state to them during the pandemic. And now what are they doing? They're buying assets with it. In some cases, they're not using mortgages. They're going directly and buying assets with cash. And what does that do? It drives up the price. So even if people were getting a foot on the ladder, they're hit by rising interest rates and they're hit by rising prices. Cormac, thanks so much for that super chat. Have a watch of the Scottish Independence. Scottish Independence will make Scotland wealthier by Phantom Power. Follow Phantom Power on Twitter when you get a spare minute, and see how Scotland is shafted regarding energy. Scotland, you have the Tories in particular continually running down Scotland, saying, Scotland would not survive on its own. But at the same time, say, yeah, we need to hold on to Scotland because, it's a cash cow when it comes to energy in particular. I think it's something like 25% of available wind energy is produced. I'm not sure if it's 25% of wind is produced in Scotland or available wind is in Scotland. But it's a massive amount of potential there. And, Scotland could be in a position where it sells energy to the rest of Europe and makes a huge amount of money out of that and is able to run its economy and create a wealth fund. That's what I think what the Scottish government would be planning to do. Scotland, will there be problems if Scotland and issues to be resolved if Scotland becomes independent? Of course. No one's going. No one's saying. No one reasonable is saying it's going to be all hunky-dory from day one. There will be, as I said before, there'll be probably a withdrawal agreement, an agreement between the Scottish Government and Westminster on how Scotland leaves the Union. Issues such as, trade, security, for example, property, things like that. These will all have to be resolved. It will take time, but I think the Scottish people will feel that we're making progress. We're starting on the road to independence, and it will be a step-by-step process. It's not going to be one day Scotland is completely is independent. It will be somewhat like a United Ireland. I've said this before. When it comes to a United Ireland, it's not going to be a light switch. You're going to see gradual move. Changing of institutions. You're going to see cooperation. You're going to see a massive shift taking place in both in society, but in government as well. I will check that out. Phantom Power is a wonderful Twitter account to follow. Just a thought: what is Starmer going to do about all these remote tech workers in Europe? Taking UK jobs. This is an issue that many people don't talk about. A lot of businesses have up sticks and moved to Europe now to be part of the single market, but also to access the workers they need. Because if there are restrictions on bringing people in, and you're a small tech company, well, you can say, look, let's move to Estonia, for example, or let's move to Poland, or let's move to the Netherlands, where we can take advantage of being part of the single market, but also being part of the EU. That's what you're going to do. And if tech companies are very easy to move around because there's, you don't have heavy machinery to ship all the halfway around the world. Does royal property stay in the hands of the royals if Scotland leaves? So that would be a point that would be trashed out between Westminster and the government in Edinburgh. What happens to Scottish properties? It'd be interesting to speak to somebody from the SNP about that. It'd be great to have somebody on the Sunday roast. So if somebody here from Scotland, there may be one or two people from Scotland on the stream tonight. If there's somebody from Scotland and somebody in the SNP who'd be willing to come on to the Sunday roast, let me know, because it'd be great to have them on and have a chat with them about that. There are, of course, some prominent voices we've had on already as well. But it'd be great to get an official point of view as well, somebody from within the government. That'd be wonderful. Gareth, thanks so much for that super chat. Check Discord for those numbers, Max. Thank you so much, Gareth. I will do that. Thanks for that. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. This story, when it comes to Keir Starmer and immigration, I hope it's a case of him talking and not acting. I hope it's a case of him saying, look, we're going to act tough, but in reality, it's not going to be. We're going to be a more open society. Has Max heard of universal credit? Don't get me started on universal credit. A crime against humanity. Universal basic income. Yes, that's much better. So guys, almost finished. I just want to finish with one funny video before we finish. And I will be on Discord later this evening, later tonight. I have a few things to sort out before I do get on, but I will see you guys on Discord after the show. But before we finish, we have our one for the road. Enjoy this. Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
Disgusted, Anthony. Absolutely disgusted with what Elon Musk has done to Twitter.
Well, I didn't know you're on Twitter, Colin.
Oh, I go on to see what people like me are thinking so that I can think the same thing. But It's gone massively downhill since that bloke took over.
I thought you'd be in your element, Colin, with this new Twitter.
Everyone on there agrees with me now. It's terrible.
Right.
I post something provocative that I haven't thought through and don't believe anyway, and instead of people pointing out that I'm a bigot, I get a load of morons nodding their heads. What kind of social media platform's that?
But isn't it about owning the libs, Colin?
But once you've owned them and they've left to masturbate or whatever
Mastodon.
it is...
Mastodon.
Yeah, whatever. Then you've got nothing more to eat, have you? If you don't grow wheat, Anthony, you don't have bread in the winter. And what Elon Musk has done has bought $44 billion worth of Hovis White Sliced and said, here you are, lads, stick that in the fridge and when it's gone, it's gone.
Who puts bread in the fridge?
I am begging you, Musk, put Twitter back to how it was. If I wanted to hear people that agreed with me, I'd stay at my local.
Oh, you're banned from your local.
Also
yeah.
begging you, Elon Musk, unban me from my local.
Yeah.
Anyway, Anthony, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family.
Wonderful. I love the part at the end. Love to the family. And it does represent, the type of people you find on Twitter. So, guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. As always, take care and be safe. Good night. Oh, Peter, we have a super chat just before we finish. New King and Queen of Scotland, Harry and Meg. That would be to really piss off the Dan Wattons of this world, or the Nigel Farages of this world, yes. King Harry and Queen Meghan, that would be great. Piss off a lot of people. So guys, have a great week. Thanks so much once again for the super chats. Thanks for your support. Remember to share the videos on social media if you can do that. That's a great way to support the channel as well. And it'll be interesting tomorrow what happens in the Supreme Court with Scottish independence. So I'll be keeping an eye on that the best I can. Have a great week. See you soon. Take care. Good night.